Hello, this is Business Now, reaching you live from iBrandTV News Studios in Lagos, Nigeria. Coming up, Ukraine invasion compels Western brands to shun doing businesses in Russia. Power grid collapses again as stakeholders meeting enters second day. Consumer price index rises to 15.7%. And United Nations projects food economy in West Africa and Sahel sub-region would hit $480 billion in 2023. Hello again, and glad to have you join us. I'm Michael Nath. We'll begin business now from Russia, looking at the impact of the ongoing crisis on the state of the economy and business activities across the globe. The invasion of Ukraine has led many Western brands to shun Russia, but some still have outlets open in the country and say they are not able to shut them. Marks and Spencer, Berger, King, and hotel groups Marriott and Accor are restricted by complex franchise deals, preventing them from withdrawing. The firms have outsourced their Russian businesses to third parties and do not own the operations bearing their name. Together, the firms have almost 1,000 outlets still open in Russia. M&S has 48 shops and Berger King has 800 restaurants still open, whilst Marriott and Accor have 28 and 57 hotels open respectively. According to reports, brands are locked into legal franchise agreements, making it difficult for them to remove their name from Russia's high streets and shopping malls. Lithuania's president said the country was willing to stop Russian oil and gas imports in the latest sign of how some EU nations plan to step up penalties on Moscow for invading Ukraine. President Gitanas Nausėda said it would create some problems, but those problems would not be critical. Lithuania got about 63% of its oil imports from Russia in 2019. President Nausėda said that figure had now shrunk after its oil refineries stopped buying Russian crude oil. Western countries hit Moscow with sanctions late last month over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the US has banned imports of Russian energy, while the UK is phasing out Russian oil imports. Oil prices rose as much as $3 on Wednesday, bouncing back after earlier declines as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues to stoke volatile trading, with ceasefire talks the latest market trigger. Now, Brent futures were last up $2.64 or 2.6% at $102.55 a barrel by 07:30 Greenwich Mean Time. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose $1.91 or 2% to stand at $98.35 a barrel. Both contracts earlier declined more than $1 a barrel, with Brent falling to $98.86 a barrel and WTI easing to $94.90 a barrel earlier in the session. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video address released early on Wednesday that the positions of Ukraine and Russia at peace talks were sounding more realistic, but more time was needed. An expert has shed light on the cause of the current hike in aviation fuel being experienced in Nigeria. While reacting to this development in the sector on iBrandTV's Business Breakfast, aviation expert and retired airline captain Samuel Akinyele Kolrick provides insight into what he describes as forex policy issues.
We have an economic policy in this country which is based on the foreign exchange of the naira with other currencies. So in anticipation to the moment that if I am an importer, I've imported about 1 billion liters of aviation fuel. Let's say I imported it at 320, at 350 naira to the dollar.
Nigeria's electricity grid collapsed around 5 p.m. on Tuesday, which was less than 48 hours after it collapsed on Monday, a development that caused widespread darkness across the country. Power distribution companies again alerted their customers about the collapse, as it was gathered the meeting summoned by the federal government on Monday over issues in the sector had to drag on till late night on Tuesday. The grid collapse further prolonged the blackouts witnessed across the country amidst the current energy crisis in the petroleum sector in Nigeria. In a public announcement to its customers on Tuesday, the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company described the collapse of the grid as total. The head corporate communications, Ikeja Electric PLC, Felix Ofulue, confirmed the development to the newsmen in Lagos. Eco Electricity Distribution Company also confirmed the partial collapse of the grid in a public notice. Also, sources at the ministry blamed the activities of vandals for the loss in power generation, stressing that some gas pipelines had been ruptured and that this had also prevented the flow of gas to thermal power plants. Now, the consumer price index rose to 15.7% in February from 15.6% in January. Latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics have revealed. The NBS disclosed this in its Consumer Price Index February 2022 report on Tuesday. According to the NBS, the highest increases were recorded in prices of gas, liquid fuel, wine, tobacco, spirits, narcotics, solid fuels, among others. The CPI, which measures inflation, increased to 15.70% on a year-on-year basis. This is 1.63 percentage points lower compared to the rate recorded in February 2021 at 17.33%. And now I am joined by Gospel Obele. He is the Chief Economist, CEO, Streamnomics Limited. Thank you very much for joining us, Obele.
Thank you, Nat, for having me. Good afternoon.
All right. Now, what are the key factors responsible for this increase in inflation rate?
All right. Thank you for the question. It's very important, first of all, to note that inflation has been on the rise for a long time. What we just saw last month in February, in the sense, was just a marginal increase. Inflation is simply the concept around the pace of increase in prices over a period of time. The increase in prices over a period of time, while that rate measures the pace of that increase. So technically, inflation has not really reduced or dropped since. So it's very, very important to state that. So I wasn't surprised to see that the numbers hit 15.7% as a result of the PMS conversations and other interesting issues that came up. But also, it's very important for me to state that the conversation on inflation in Nigeria at a significantly high double digit is largely a conversation of structural deficits, which also impacts on value chain transfer costs, in the sense that when any major structural shock happens, because we do not have the necessary shock absorbers, as it were, or buffers, in a sense, to contain that impact, we begin to see those prices reflect in cost of mobility, cost of moving products and services around, and producers generally increase the cost per item of a commodity in a bid to transfer those costs to the final consumer. So what we see generally is just the normal cycle of how the Nigerian inflation economics work, but largely hinged on the fact that there are structural issues which affect the economy on a large scale, across different sectors, in a sense. So I'm not surprised to see those numbers, because in the first place, we weren't making any significant improvement on costs.
All right. Now, some people out there hear terms like rise in inflation, fall in inflation, and such things without actually knowing what they are all about. Now, what does this increase mean to the ordinary man in the street?
And so, yeah, interesting question in terms of what this means to the ordinary man in the streets. The truth is that inflation has been on the rise for a long time. And in that context, we're talking about inflation rate. Inflation, like I mentioned earlier on, is the concept to say that prices are increasing, but inflation rate tells us the pace at which that increase is happening. So really, Nigeria did not experience any form of fall in inflation in the sense of inflation rates, because if you still go back to the market, the price of a basket of tomatoes is significantly higher on a month-to-month basis, so which also means that disposable incomes are shrinking on a month-to-month basis because the cost impact of living, all right, eats deeply into the disposable / discretionary income of the average Nigerian. So in terms of what this means for the average Nigerian, it just simply means, the same thing, meaning that increased cost of living, because now it's a lot more expensive to move around, to feed, all right, to just have a better life and all that. And what this simply means down the line is some form of reforming what we term as a poverty trap. And that's because a lot more people cannot get by on a daily basis. A lot of people cannot get by on a daily basis because they are trapped trying to meet the basic necessities of life. So aspirations are hijacked, living aspirations and life aspirations, career aspirations are hijacked because incomes are shrinking. And incomes are shrinking not because incomes are increasing or there are no opportunities, but because the cost centers are increasing. So it's the same impact as severe in terms of on the long term. It also impacts on the potential for inclusive GDP recovery in terms of recovery growth and all that. So how much jobs can we create from this whole recovery pool and all that? All of those questions are further hijacked by an increase in the cost of living or increased cost pressure points on the economy. So it's not really a very good news in view of the urgent need for social inclusion and development.
All right. Now, the federal government's inflation target or projection for 2022 is 13%. Does this increase in any way threaten this target?
Yes, the target is at 13%, but even at 13%, it still doesn't cut it in terms of Nigeria needs to strive at achieving a single-digit inflation rate, not a double-digit. So, I mean, pegging your fiscal or monetary goals at a double-digit inflation rate for the fiscal year 2022 still doesn't
All right. Thank you very much there. Gospel Obele, Chief Economist and the Chief Executive Officer, Streetnomics. They're answering our questions. You're watching Business Now on, all right. Just gathered that Justin Gospel Obele is back online because we had a technical issue.
Yeah, so I was trying to say that
the
central bank seeking to achieve inflation at 13% by end of fiscal or monetary year 2022 is still not a necessary condition to enable inclusive development or social improvement of things, not to talk of a sufficient condition in the sense. So what we should strive at is fixing the structural issues that enable for increased pace of goods and services in the first place, and also dealing with the fact that inflation has to reach a double digit as soon as possible. And if you look at other competitive economies, South Africa and the likes, most African economies engage on a single digit inflation. And that's a very big question for Nigeria to, a very interesting goal that we must achieve by the end of the year if we must have any form of inclusion in view. All right. In a sense. But at 13%, I don't think we're near it.
It's okay. All right. Thank you so very much, Gospel Obele, Chief Economist, CEO, Streetnomics, answering our questions there. You're watching Business Now on iBrandTV Lagos. We'll take a commercial break now and come back with more stories. Stay with us.
Powerful looks command respect, they say. The perfect body, the perfect grooming, and ultimately the perfect skin. Looks, style, and grooming makes the ultimate man. I've found a ridiculously easy way to make my skin always feel epic. My name is Neo. I found Blemiviv, and now my skin finally makes sense. Most people don't understand the magic of a perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products, from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution. And it's Blemiviv Skincare and Spa. My name is Neo, and I'm proud to be a part of the Blemiviv family.
You're welcome back to watching Business Now on iBrandTV Lagos. Africa Seen Now. The United Nations in Nigeria has projected the food economy in the West Africa and Sahel sub-region will hit $480 billion in 2030, with the non-agricultural sector accounting for 49% of the value added. The resident and humanitarian coordinator for the United Nations in Nigeria, Matthias Schmale, stated this yesterday in Abuja at the 13th multidisciplinary team meeting. Schmale, who attributed the expected growth to the systemic approach undertaken by the Food and Agriculture Organization in securing the development gains in the fight against hunger, tasked West African countries to seize the opportunities for building resilient agri-food systems in the region. The African Development Bank is wooing investors that have appetite for high returns and social impacts with 42 bankable deals in Africa that have a combined value of $58 billion. This was disclosed by the president of the AFDB group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, during the opening ceremony of the African Investment Forum Virtual Boardroom Session 2022, where he said the investment opportunities included $15.6 billion transport corridor that will link Lagos to Cotonou, Lomé, Accra, and Ivory Coast, and the 140 million naira or $1 million Film Academy in Nigeria. Akinwumi said that the boardrooms would feature projects in key priority sectors identified in the AIF's 2020 Unified Response to COVID-19 initiative. Now, Chinese tech giant Huawei Technologies South African units and the Department of Employment and Labor have reached an out-of-court settlement for alleged employment equity violations. This follows the department's application to the Labor Court on February the 11th, in which it said Huawei had violated the employment equity policy after an audit in 2020 found the company's workforce comprised 90% foreign nationals. Huawei is required by the Act to employ 60% South Africans and 40% foreign nationals. In a joint media statement, the department said it had accepted Huawei South Africa's employment equity plan, which addressed the equitable representation of South Africans to above 50% within 3 years, especially from designated groups as defined in the Employment Equity Act. The amount of the settlement was not disclosed. Foreign scene now, the owner of KFC and Pizza Hut said sales plunged by 20% in the first 2 weeks in March as a surge of new COVID cases spread across China. Yum China said the situation has rapidly deteriorated as regional lockdowns have been put in place to stem the outbreak. Now, more than 1,100 of its stores are temporarily closed or offering takeaway, and sales are still trending down. China's lockdowns are among its biggest since the beginning of the pandemic. An afternoon surge in Chinese equities lifted the broad gauge of Asian shares on Wednesday on rising hopes Beijing will roll out more economic stimulus, while investors continue to watch Ukraine-Russia peace talks and the U.S. Federal Reserve. The federal government, Fed, is expected to raise rates for the first time in 3 years later on Wednesday and give guidance on future tightening. Read more. Now, European bourses were poised to open stronger. The rise in Asian shares came a day after mainland China and Hong Kong equity indexes had tumbled in reaction to spiking coronavirus infections in China and fading expectations for a rate cut by the People's Bank of China. We go on a commercial break now. When we return, we'll bring you more news updates. Stay with us.
Most people don't understand the magic of a perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products, from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution. And it's Blemiville Skincare and Spa. My name is Neil, and I'm proud to be a part of the Blemiville family.